guys, it's Cloudy. How are you all? I am once again asking everyone to read and check out Seventh Time Loop because we're going to be talking about the anime of Seventh Time Loop versus the light novel in today's video. Now, the anime for Seventh Time Loop came out a while ago and the light novel is still ongoing. So if you read Japanese, you can check out the light novels in Japanese. And if you read them in English, I believe there are about 6-ish light novels that have been translated so far by Seven Seas Entertainment. Seventh Time Loop follows a girl named Riche who has been reincarnated 6 times in her life. She's been given 6 do-overs, and every time her life ends in death. Like, she's not able to make it to the end of her life. Usually when this big political event occurs, she ends up dying in that war. So the series follows her 7th time loop, and what's unique about her 7th time loop is that she directly encounters the man who killed her or indirectly caused her death in all 6 lifetimes, which is Arnold. Arnold is a prince from a kingdom called Galkine, and he's very interesting because in all of Riche's previous lifetimes, she's only known him as a murderer and a conqueror. But in the 7th timeline, he ends up being her fiance, and that gives a very interesting twist to Riche's life. Riche is a heroine who has maxed out all of her skills and brings 6 lifetimes worth of knowledge to her 7th time loop, which makes her incredibly knowledgeable and also has the upper hand when it comes to foreseeing certain events like a pandemic or a scandal and like related things that would affect the kingdom. So why have I decided to pick up the light novel after watching the anime? I would say that for most people, the anime is just not enough, and most of the time adaptations from light novels are just way too short, and there is also no announcement of like season 2. If I want to know what happens later on in Riche's journey, I have to go to the original material. Now let's talk about some of the pros and cons when I was reading the light novel versus watching the anime. First of all, I really feel like watching the anime first helps me better understand the flow of events in the light novel. The anime is very episodic, which means one event happens in every single episode, and it's usually resolved within one episode as well. However, when it comes to the light novel, there are certain events that have been shortened and certain events that have been lengthened. In the context of 7th time loop, when Riche is picking her maids in the anime, there's this like whole chunk of time where we actually see Riche eavesdropping on the maids and working with them side by side to understand their personalities, versus in the light novel it happens pretty quickly and the main focal point is on the day where Riche actually picks her maids. We don't actually see Riche interact that much with her maids or get bullied as much as in the anime. Another point I wanted to talk about is pacing. So when it comes to the anime, things are paced a lot quicker. Usually light novel series will get about like 12 episodes. If they're really, really popular and lucky, they can get 24. But most of the time it's 12 or 13 episodes, which means that the time is very limited. For the event where Riche gets kidnapped by Arnold's younger brother Theodore, I felt like the light novel really extended all of this, and there was a lot of like action, there was like plotting, there were certain sections that were told from Theodore's perspective versus some sections that were told from Riche's perspective, and that made the event drag on a bit longer. Versus in the anime, it is solely told from Riche's perspective, and we really only get to see the kidnapping part from Riche's point of view. In the light novel, you can actually see Theodore's reactions to Riche, and they're all kind of like written out, so they are in a lot more detail. This makes the story really easy to digest when it's in anime form because the light novel drags on a bit. There's a lot of details. There is a lot of information to take in. The anime presents it in a very holistic, perfectly tied together 12-episode package. In this sense, the anime makes the information and the events and the world building a lot easier to digest because you're able to visually see what's going on all simultaneously. Versus in the light novel, you have to read about the world building separately, different perspectives, what people are thinking, their internal monologue. There's a lot of internal monologue that I feel like got cut out in the anime. With the light novel, however, one of the biggest pros is that you can get the entire scope of what the author intended. You'll see the plot in a bigger point of view because the story is just so much longer, and then there's like up and down of waves. A lot of time, the anime focuses on the first section of the light novel series where some of the storytelling is a little bit lighter. You don't get some of like the twists and more intricate kingdom and political details until later on in the light novel. So I feel like if you read the light novel and you take the patience to actually go through all of these like different arcs, you can get a more well-rounded perspective of the story. Okay, now let's talk about some cons of each medium. For the anime, of course, you are restricted to whatever is adapted, and a lot of isekai villainous series, we don't really know if they're gonna get a second season, so you get kind of left hanging, and you sort of have to read the light novel at one point. I do feel like for the anime, sometimes storytelling is a little bit more shallow with a bigger romance focus, versus in the Seventh Time Loop novel, you can actually like learn a bit more about how Riche is like thinking about everything, approaching all the different puzzle pieces with the situation she's been given as Arnold's fiance, and you get a little bit more of like her inner intellect of how she like fits all these pieces of information together so that she can plan accordingly for her future. I feel like it's just more straightforward in the anime, and it's more detailed and intricate in the light novel. Cons for the light novel, the main one is that you have to read, and not everybody wants to read. For me, I'm used to reading a lot of like fiction, like I'll read YA, I'll read sci-fi or fantasy. I also read a lot of like academic papers on a daily basis because of my courses. So I feel like because I'm always reading heavy material, it was actually really easy for me to pick up light novels, and I finished Seventh Time Loop in about like 2 days time. The prose is very easy to digest, and there's nothing really heavy in the world building. However, for people who are used to reading traditional fiction and like mainstream fiction, I would say that the character building and the world building is very, very different. The language is way more straightforward, and it's almost as if someone is talking to me and telling me the story ad verbatim. I feel like a friend is telling me the story when I read light novels, versus I feel like for regular novels, there's a really strong character voice that the writing has to embody. Overall, it is really up to you how you decide you want to explore the story and digest all the details. I think it's a good mix to have both the light novel and also the anime work in tandem. If you read and watch both of them, it gives you a much wider picture of the story, and I like that. I like a lot of details. I like having a big overarching perspective, so I can sort of see how all the pieces fit together. For the light novel, there is a lot more material. I believe the anime only covers like 3-ish light novels, so you can choose to start reading the light novel where the anime ends off, or you can just read it from the beginning. I would say it is a very different experience, so both are worth giving a try. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video from me, and I will be reading more of Seventh Time Loop, so maybe I'll make some future vlogs about that. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!